Hey everybody, welcome back. It's been a bit, but we're gonna be back working on the 47. So done actually just over the last couple weeks. It's been pretty much sitting since February, I think. I got the majority of the truck wired up. The front end is pretty much on, radiators in for the most part. That's actually bolted in. There is the fan right behind it here. We got the intake on. We're just gonna get into some stuff here real quick. Mock up on the bed. So majority of the interior is wired. I got the ignition switch. I gotta find a new ignition switch for it. Outside of that, we are pretty well wired up. Gotta figure out the shifter yet. So we ended up getting a different shifter. We'll get into that later. Got the exhaust here off of the Sonoma from when I had that, so we're gonna throw that on here. And we got the bed sitting on here. Just got these 4x6s here, actually yesterday. Got them cut on there so I can mock this up here a little bit better. I did shorten the bed, and basically right now it's just lightly bolted together. So after doing all that, I got this sheet of metal here. This was to repair the cross members. Well, at the point we're at right now, we got one more to put in. That's it. That's all we're gonna have for cross members. And I got that here on the table. We're gonna go ahead and get this fixed, hopefully today. So just basically rusted out there, rusted out here. We're gonna take and cut some of this metal out here. Then we'll go over to the brake and break it, and hopefully get it knocked out here and get this in place. Bolts to the frame here, and then it's supposed to have the bolts through the wood on this side right here. So that'll be interesting when I get to that point. Probably going to take wood off of one of the trailers and put it on here, and then I'll have to redeck one of my trailers. But at least it'll have some older wood, and that's what my wife is looking for. So we got our gas tank sitting up here right now. That's fairly accurate spot of where it's going to be. It's not going to be up against the cab. It'll be back here onto the bed a little bit more, but we're also going to make some type of support for that goes underneath the wood. And then we get back over to the plasma table, which is a shelf right now, and we'll cut out the brackets to hold the plasma or the gas tank. That bracket situation is the main reason we built that plasma table, but that's probably still a few weeks out. Until then, we can get some of the littler stuff done. Majority of the stuff at this point is actually done. A lot of what I had left was wiring, so I got majority of that buttoned up. We got little bits and pieces to do yet. We got the transmission lines to run to the radiator, which is going to be a really tight fit, but we'll get that figured out. I got to hook up the brakes for the vacuum yet. The wipers are vacuum actuated in this truck, so I don't know if it'll work or not, but we're going to hook it up, see if it works. Then we got to bleed brakes, put fluids in, you know, basic stuff. So, and we got to finish bolting the fenders on and get the hood on here. Mount shifter, I will get all of that stuff done here, hopefully over the next few weeks. And maybe have a running truck in a month or two. Hopefully. Got to make some tail light brackets here too. Get those back here, get reverse lights, figure out all that stuff. But we'll get to that, hopefully. Anyway, we'll get to that. See what happens, that's all we can do. Let's start moving. All right, so we're gonna take a guesstimate of the steel here. We'll take a few measurements, measure about how wide I need. I'm just gonna make 2 of them right away. Looks like I got some fairly decent metal down here, a little bit of cracking there. So if we can stay away from that joint right there, we'll go ahead and do that. So we'll measure from here down to the bottom here, and we'll cut them in and get them welded up. Pull out the welder, get that done, and we can get that bolted in here. So we have all of our structure. If you look over there, you can see I had shortened both side rails, and that one's just a little bit off. So I'm gonna end up cutting that one, straightening out a little bit better, and then re-welding that, which is no big deal. Probably just use the angle grinder, make a slice in it and see if that's enough, straighten it out, and put her back together. All right, grab a tape measure here, see what we got going on. So we are about 1 5/8 inches. And height wise, we're looking at 6.5. So if we throw that a cut at 6 1/4 and break it 1 5/8 inches. How wide do we gotta go here? I think we can get by with 6 inches. Yeah. So 6 inches, 6 inches wide. So we'll go ahead and just notch off here. I wish I had a better way to cut this, but it's gonna be an angle grinder. So we'll go 6 inches wide here. Then add 1 5/8 inches to about 6 1/4. So we should be able to get by. Yeah, we can. We'll muster through that other 1/4 inch down there. That's not gonna be the end of the world. Yeah, no problem. So 6 1/4 and 1 5/8 inches. That was 1 5/8 inches, right? Oh. Yeah, 1 5/8 inches. So that's 7/8. 7 and 7/8. So just about 8 inches. We can rough it out at a 6x8. 2 6x8s out of that, and then if we need to, we can come chop it with the yeah, that. All right, let's mark it out and get cut. All right, so we got that all burned in here. Clean up the floor a little bit. Let's go ahead and put this somewhat in. Yeah, it's not straight, but it is. It might be a little bit warped, and you know that's good enough for who it is. Or good enough for who it's for, I should say. Let's see if we can muster the camera around here a little bit. Maybe not. Probably not. It's good enough for now, I think. I will find out. All right. There we are. That should work. Should. Let's grab some bolts. Maybe it'll work. It should work. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Then we can go ahead and
cut on that other side there and get that straightened back out. That helps me grab the right size nuts. All right. I'm just lightly snugging these up. Not too worried about it right now. We can snug them up more later. I still gotta get U-bolts to mount the wood to the frame, and then gonna cut angle iron for, and there goes a nut. Cut angle iron to mount the supports to the wood. So it is what it is. So now we can cut that, and from that point straighten it out a little bit. That way the bolts can go in on that side, and hopefully weld that side of the bed back up again. But I think for that I'm going to switch over to time lapse again. Hold on. Alright, so that ends up looking a little bit better. Now we got our supports in, so the bed is structurally pretty much done. Yeah, we got a little bit to do yet on it, but that's not the end of the world. Where do we go now? Well, next thing I'm contemplating on the gas tank. Get that done and taken care of, but maybe I'll wait a little bit on that. We do have a shifter to put in, which requires me to put the seat back in, the base of the seat, get my wife in here and have her feel the position of the shifter. I could just throw it anywhere, but we got a shifter right here, which is a good old Hurst, old school, set up for a power glide, bent handle on it already. But if you remember from back in the videos, my wife wants to use the brake handle. So this bad boy right here was the parking brake handle off this truck. That's what she wants to use. So that requires us to take that apart, which is no big deal, and maybe drill one more hole and fit it in there. And then I can get her out here for placement of the shifter and to see if I have to bend anything, yada yada. And on top of that, we also got to figure out neutral safety switch and reverse backup light switch. Yep. Don't know where them are gonna go yet, but I guess we got to figure that out. Maybe. Yeah, we got to do it. All right. I'm going to take this apart real quick. Figure out what's going on. All right, so we blew stuff apart here. The old brake lever, we don't need this anymore. That's out of here. We don't need that anymore. That's out of here. We need this. And we plan on putting that on there. It's going to be straight up and down, so I hope that's what she wants. Guess we'll find out. If we got to bend it, I guess we got to bend it. But we have our wonderful Hurst shifter here.
And this is the hole we have in here currently. This hole is way too big. I'd have to bush it, which, I mean, isn't the end of the world, but we could bush it and make do with it. But this hole here, it looks like a 5/16 hole. These are 3/8 bolts, fine thread. We're gonna knock this hole open. We're gonna open that up, and if we look here at the bolt pattern, we have enough room. So we'll open that hole up first, then we'll go ahead and probably bolt this right on here like that. And once that's done, I can mark the top hole and drill that out and get it bolted on the handle. See how that looks. All right, shifter handle. We ended up getting rid of that rod. Why? Well, the piece in the center that's no longer there was hardened and I couldn't drill it. So I found a piece of metal that we had laying around here that was thick enough, slid it in there, and that was that. So need to get longer bolts, but outside of that, shifter handle is together. Now this thing is really tall, really long, and I was heavily concerned, so I actually had my wife come out already. I threw the seat in, and from the position of where it was when it was on the floor, we're hitting the dash. So we are actually going to raise this thing up here, right here at about 5.5 inches. It doesn't hit the dash. So we're going to go ahead and put it there, I guess, and let it be and go from there. So outside of that, that should work. I did, while I was sitting in here, I remembered I need to make a gas pedal for it or buy one or something about a gas pedal, because otherwise we ain't going anywhere. So that's on my list to do too. And I was talking to her about a couple other things. We're not going to put any carpet in here. What you see is what you get. So I better figure out how to fill up some of these holes and make sure that they're all taken care of. We don't have any issues there. I'm sure at some point in time I'll probably end up putting carpet in here, but nonetheless, right now she doesn't want any carpet, so that's going to be what it is. This is the base of the seat here. It actually sits pretty nice, but it does need to be recovered along with the back, so we'll be getting that done. We'll be doing it. And then we got headliner that needs to get put in. She wants to put a flag in there, so we'll go ahead and get that done, taken care of. And then we got visors that need to get recovered as well at some point in time. Funny thing is, the original ignition that was in here, I had to take it out because, I mean, it's older and it probably can't handle the amp draw of everything that we got going on. But this is the key, and it actually works for the glove box and the door. So tickle me pink on that, but we got working keys here. So that's at least one key anyway. So we can actually set this thing outside, lock it up, no problem. Anywho's, I gotta figure out how to raise that thing up 5.5 inches now and where it's gonna mount to have support. All right, let's look into that. All right, so we have ourselves a piece of 1.25" mild steel here that was in one of the roll cage kits that I had. Then we got a piece of 1-inch chromoly. Well, it didn't quite fit in there, so using the only tool I had for the job, and in my opinion the wrong tool, first I went to the Unibit and cleaned it up a little bit, and then I went ahead with a why can't I find it now? It's always how it works, isn't it? A Forstner bit. There, well, right in front of your face. And cleaned it out with this the rest of the way. So it worked. Wrong job for a wrong tool for the right job, I guess, or something like that, I guess. But now we have fitment in here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut it up. Well, not quite yet cut it up, but I'll cut it up here. And it'll give me my 5.5. I might even go 6 inches on it. And then I'll weld this to the bracket the shifter originally came on, which is this.
And in turn, this should actually make it so I can put cup holders in there too. Thinking about it, maybe I'll plasma something out for that. But I think right now what I'll do is I'm gonna drill through this and then bolt it on. Then what that'll allow me to do is put a brace underneath the floor and just shove the 1-inch tube through it. And that'll allow me to have the shifter up high enough and not take up a stupid amount of floor space and not block our 12 volt outlets in here that I put in the seat mount here. So basically right in the center, right around here somewhere, we'll drill a 1-inch hole and that'll shoot out, and we can bolt our shifter to that, and it should be fairly steady and solid. Real similar to what they do in the drag racing world. So that should hopefully work for us, I hope, and make some cup holders in there too. That'll be great. All right. Well, I got tired of sitting here with the hand drill, and being I had everything marked out, I just went over to the table, or the drill press. There it is. So it can only go one way with the way it's set up right now, which is fine. Is what it is. But at this point, we're just going to take a bolt, drop her in there, yada yada. So we'll tighten this up. Now we will have what we need. So now we can take this, we can chop it off here and figure out what we're going to mount underneath the system here. Figure out where we're going to put everything. Chop this off, weld this to whatever we put down there. Weld this to up here, something like that. Be like right here. We'll cut the extra brackets off and everything. There's no need for them. But since somebody was nice enough to make that plate already, unless I just go ahead and make a new plate that integrates cup holders right in it, I will think about it. We'll see. Nonetheless, this part of it is done. It's just got to make it shorter. And now it's time to figure out where I'm going to support everything. All right, new day, new thoughts, maybe. Anyway, back to the shifter bracket. So what I got here, I gotta get some light in here. Hopefully a little bit anyway. All right, hopefully that's better. So what I got here is half of a bracket for a drive shaft safety loop that I've had sitting around here for years. Haven't used, well, I've used it a few times, but unfortunately it's just been sitting. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take and put it on here. Hopefully you can see that. And I wanna make it so it can be removed. And it already has holes in it. So that's fantastic, but how do I hold it there? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take and make brackets that go from the transmission crossmember over and located on these bolt holes. Then I can take and put that tube on the top of here, stick it through the floor, and continue. We have tools to help us make that bracket. We can do it by hand for sure, but why not just use a plasma table? So we're gonna attempt to do that. So at this point, I'm actually gonna take and pause this video and clean off the plasma table. Disaster. And I think I'm gonna make a water table for it real quick. start a new video on that, just on the plasma table here, and then we will get back on making brackets for this thing. Today is drag racing, so I'm not drag racing, but I'm gonna go watch first time this year. Really miss watching that. So hold on a little bit and we'll get come back with some brackets hopefully. All right, a few days later here, we're back at it. Water table on the plasma cutter's done. That video should be posted by now, so you can go ahead and check that out if you want. Here's what we got going on. All right. So, made a couple of brackets. Nice. They should work. Hopefully, they should be fine. The way I'm going to do this is take and get it in a good ballpark pot, like right about there. That should be fine. And just gonna burn them in. So as you see, I made them unboltable on both sides here, so that should allow me to be able to remove the transmission and not have any issues. And they'll just be in place and should hopefully be enough to hold the shifter and the cup holder assembly that I made. You'll be able to check that out here soon. Once I get this burned in, we'll have to figure out clearance on the floor and weld a piece of that tube, this tube right here, onto here. And we're probably just gonna cheat. I'm probably not gonna dig out the TIG welder. I'll probably just make it on and be done with it. And then we'll go from there. So stick around here and let's figure this out. Alright, so that mount is burned in. Should be good. So now we're going to check the distance between this and the floor. This is fairly flat, so we'll just use this. Gives us a good enough measurement, hopefully. We're looking about 1.5 inches. Upside down, 1 5/8 inches. So we'll call it 1 5/8 inches. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna find out how far this tube goes in the other tube. Set this up here real quick. Not too much junk laying around again. Clean all this crap off yet. Yeah, good enough for right now. I'll do it later. Right about there. Good enough. All right, so I said 1 5/8 inches. We're gonna give ourselves just a little bit of extra room. So we'll say right there. And we'll go ahead and just chop that off there. Clean up that mount and burn that in. All right, so we got that bad boy burned in there. Now obviously we still have the top tube to cut shorter here. And then we need to decide on where we're putting the shifter. What height? I think we're gonna cut it right about here, but it also matters about our cup holders. Because if I go too low, well, actually, it doesn't look like it matters if I go too low, because should have plenty of room here for our for our power outlets, so I'm not worried about it. All right, awesome. So I know that roughly 6 inches up from the floor was a good height, so we'll probably just go 7. You know, let's give it one of those rat rod looks, I guess. All right, I cut this off and we're gonna start something. All right, we have a shifter. It's not mounted yet, but we have a shifter. Here, I'm gonna move the light. Come on. All right, so here's our cup holders. Pretty big. Hopefully it'll work, and hopefully my other half's okay with it. But this is where we're gonna go with it. Little concerned about space for leg room, but you know what? They're already all done. It'll be fine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and make sure that this the top one's pretty darn level where it is, and burn that one in. I burned some nuts in for the shifter already, so hopefully that's good. Then we'll get the bottom spaced out, hopefully, and get those burned in. Hopefully. It should be fine. It'll be good. All right, I'm gonna try this again. Had a problem with the camera. So we got some 5/16 line here that I found. Older line, I don't know. I had it laying around. Found a nut. Actually, I found a total of 3 nuts here. Threw a 90-degree bend in here with just a little hand bender. So these are the blocks for the hydraulic inverter flare tool. So what I did is I put one on there and made a mark on the tube right there, so I can gain as much room back as possible, because we don't have a whole lot of room in between the transmission and pulleys. So we're gonna make that as short as possible here and start from there and see what we can do and work our way back to the transmission. But we'll just take and cut this short here, and then we can go ahead and flare it. If you haven't seen this done before, I can go ahead and show you what's going on, but let me get it cut off first and get the tool set up. All right, let's see if we can make this work. So I got that all cut off, so now I just want to take and open up the end of the tube, get it cleaned out, get that rough edge off of there. From cutting it, it just squeezes it down inside. So at this point, what I want to do is open up my tool. These blocks, there's going to be 2 of them here. They're going to go around the tube, and then I'm going to take and clamp them in. Oh, got to open this up further yet. Just going to take and clamp them in here. All right, so the tube should basically be right at the end of the blocks on this design. Once you get it in there, you give it a good squeeze. Make sure it's nice and tight. All right, now let me pull you in here real quick. You can see how that tube is basically right at the end of the blocks. And the blocks, actually I gotta move the blocks back a little bit, but you get the idea of where it should be there. All right, we're gonna go with that. And the only reason I have this in a vise is to show you guys what's going on here. Hopefully you can actually see what's going on. Move that up a little bit. All right, so what we're gonna start with is the inverted flare piece here. So what this does, it'll go inside and it'll give it almost like a bubble flare. So we're just gonna put that in here, screw this in. to make sure it's lining up. What I like to do is get it in there as tight as possible. And we're going to tighten up the hydraulic cylinder here, and we're just going to squeeze. And as long as everything's working right there, it gets tight. Now we're going to back it off, unscrew it. I should mention, one of the biggest things you want to do when you're doing this is make sure you have a nut on first. So we're just going to pop that out of there now. Now if we go over here and take a look, it's got a nice bubble to it, but we want a double flare. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to take the cone and we're just going to pop that in there and do the same exact thing. So we're going to tighten this up. I just got to keep that flap out of the way right now. So we just snug that up right there. Just tighten our hydraulic cylinder back up and squeeze. Done. Release it. Unscrew it so you can get the fitting out of there, or the adapter for the cone. Pull that out. Now we're going to go ahead and loosen the clamp on the vise. There we go. Get the blocks out of the way. All right, now we have a nice double flare. Nut fits on there nice, everything's looking really good. Now we can take and use that. So we have ourselves a nice fitting now that will mate up against the surfaces that we need. All right, so I'm gonna get that set up in there and see if we can make something happen here. Hopefully we can. Okay, well, I guess we can just scrap that idea. Had the line in there. It's actually still sitting in there. I cut it long. It's sitting down there somewhere. It's sitting down there. But, you know, normally you would think transmission should use 5/16 line, right? Well, it turns out it's 3/16 fittings. So I guess I got to figure out something else, and we aren't going to be using the transmission cooler in that radiator, but we need a cooler. And up front we are out of room in between the fan and the horn that we can't see. We are out of room, so I'm guessing my parts for my drag car project are going to be donated to this truck. And had I known that, I wouldn't have cut the nuts off of the lines I already had pre-bent for that transmission for this purpose. And they were, I mean, they're right here. I can re-bend them. That's not a big deal. Or yeah, I can bend them back up a little bit and put new nuts on them. Not a big deal. But they already have 6AN fittings on them. So yeah, I guess let me dig that out and figure that out, because that'll have to go in back here now, where I'm not sure. Oops. Fell over. I'm thinking it's gonna end up being part of the mount for the gas tank is where it's gonna end up sitting. So that means I'll have to figure out that mount. And once we get that mount figured out, then we can move on. So if that's where the cooler goes, that's where the cooler goes. It's got a built-in fan, so that means more wires I gotta run that are not integrated into everything already. Great. Build cars, they said. It'll be fun, they said. All right, so here's where we're at. We're gonna be using this transmission cooler, and we're gonna make a mount back here and incorporate it into the gas tank mount, along with probably the fuel filter in there too. Hopefully get all that squared away, but we're gonna save that for next time. Thanks for watching, appreciate it. Hope you liked it, hope you learned something. If not, sorry, try harder next time. Get out your garage, do something, build something. Have a great day.